The different manners in which we control avalanche here is initially by what we call grenadage à la main, which is a dynamite grenade with a slow burning fuse and detonator, which we physically put in place by hand. The other way of doing them is we have what's called a catex, which is a cable which runs around, which is good because it's a remote distance, which we're not actually in the area. There's also the gazexes, which are controlled by satellite, which is a permanent implantation in the right area, which we control from distance. There is an avalancher, which is a compressed air gun with a nitrate fuel arrow inside it.
That's sort of what acts a bit like a mortar, I suppose.
It's not really. It's a compressed air gun, basically, with a very large, with a 2 meter, literally an arrow with a detonator and a nitrate fuel inside it. There is also an avalanche, which is again a permanent installation, which is a nitrogen and oxygen balloon which blows up and creates the explosion. And we also do grenadage or dynamiting by hand, but from a helicopter. It needs a special dispensation from the ministry, etc., in order to do that. The benefit of all of these is that you're not actually putting an individual piste in the line where he has to manipulate explosives in a dangerous area. The one which is the most effective is the individual, or in teams of 2, with his grenade, with his stick of dynamite, with a slow burning fuse, just as you see kind of in the cartoons. But it is also the one which exposes the piste to the highest risk.
And you act in pairs, presumably one
Yep.
person leading, the other person acting in a secondary role. That's safety as much as anything else, I imagine.
That's right, yes. There's always a minimum of at least 2 which will go out in teams. There are other members of the team, another 2 which will stay at the top and with whom we're in constant radio contact, which is very important as part of it. Even though we're 2 individuals, there is always another 2 looking out for us, knowing exactly where we are. And in that team there's a team leader who will prepare the charges, and there is what we'll call a second artificier, or more like a Sherpa, which carries the charges. And we move individually, keeping an eye on each other at all times. It's very important to communicate and work well with your team, with your Sherpa or with your team leader.
And how dangerous is it?
If you follow the plan and you do exactly what's written in the plan, you are minimalising all dangers. However, there is always an accident is always possible, but I think one of the most important things is to know where you're going, to have studied it before, to know the weather, to know what snow's come down, to communicate well with your team partner, and to really follow the actual PIDA, as we call it, the plan, which will minimise all possible risks.
And have you ever been involved in any accident or any other member of the Peace Patrol here?
Here in Tignes, there's been a number of small accidents, a very small number, but myself personally, no, I've always been fortunate enough to stay out of trouble.
And obviously a day like today, this is ideal conditions.
Yeah.
It's blue sky, not too cold, not too windy. I guess it's not always like this.
No, it's today the conditions really are exceptional actually. It probably happens about once or twice a year. Bearing in mind the reason why we're up here is to control avalanches. It's often following wind and snowstorms, and it's more often than not it's actually within those storms when you can't see 2 meters in front of you and it's blowing 100+ kilometers an hour of wind. Those are the days we normally go out. But every now and again we get lucky and we have good visibility on a day like today, so it's an absolute pleasure.
Is there any sort of pressure to get it all done quickly, so that there's thousands of skiers wanting to get out on a day like today? Did you feel under any sort of pressure to do the job quickly, or are you doing it exactly as it should be done?
No, there isn't pressure. Even though you think, yes, there are people waiting at the bottom and the people have paid for their ski passes, they're willing to go, though it's a blue sky day and everything, we can't submit to that pressure. We have to do our job properly, do it well, do it correctly, and not make the mistakes which can happen. If you start doing it too quickly and going, oh, I must get all this done really quick, that's when you can miss something important in the plan. So the pressure is there, but it's there to be ignored, and kind of apologised to the skiers, but let us do our job properly, and that way everyone returns home safely at the end of the day.
It seems rather odd to find a British person in the Tignes ski patrol. What's your story? How come you've become a pisteur in France?
Well, I've arrived in Tignes a long time ago, just like that, and did many different jobs, as everyone does, I think. And then one day decided that probably should take it a bit further. My wife pushed me, encouraged me to become a pisteur, go through all the training, which I followed the French system. I didn't try to follow do any British conversions or anything. I didn't think there was any point, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Did you find any animosity to being an English person doing it, or they're
No.
very encouraging that you wanted to do their line of work?
Very encouraging, a lot of help, and I think what was important at the time when I joined the service of peace was that they wanted to employ people who lived and were part of Tignes. So because I'd already been here quite a while, there was, I believe I was considered to be part of the community, and it was more on that basis which I was employed than the basis of that's how I was viewed. So no, none whatsoever.
And final question, in summary, how would you summarise your job? You obviously love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a question of being very passionate about the mountains. It's a question of being very passionate about helping people as a secouriste as well, because don't forget that we are rescuers primarily. To summarise the job, for me, it's an opportunity to be outdoors, to be helping people in an area which is just absolutely outstanding, and doing on the skis, which is just an added bonus, and being proud of having a good sector, a good resort which works well, which is as open and as safe as it possibly can be.